everybody. Give me one moment, as usual, just to make sure things are up and running properly here. Do a quick audio check. Is that working? Yeah. All right. So, hello. Good afternoon. Happy Friday. Welcome everybody to the stream and/or to the recording later on. My name is Cheese Doodle. Excuse me. My name is Cheese Doodle. I'm a member of the TagPro Future Group and development teams. We are a group tasked with pushing out regular updates to TagPro, trying to make the game better for the community run, and all of that. For those of you not familiar with TagPro, it is a free-to-play online multiplayer capture the flag game in your browser. You can find it at tagpro.gg. So this series that we've been doing for a few months now at this point is mostly focused on communicating recent development updates, kind of talking about stuff that we have been working on. I think I forgot to update my Go Live notification, but that's all right. Talking about recent development updates. We had that big release a little over a week ago, so we're going to talk through some of the things that have been changing since that release. Then we will switch over to the Canny board, which you can see in front of me, talk through some of the requests from the community, things people want to have added to the game. We've got quite a few actually from the last couple weeks that are in, which is great to see. And then at the end, we're going to finish up with a feature building session. We'll put together the specifications for something that we would like to make in the future. So for now, as we get into it, I want to talk through some development changes. The last week has mostly been focused on cleaning up the last release. With any release that goes live, you're going to have a couple things here and there that need to be fine-tuned. So I'm just going to talk through what we've ended up changing. Nothing major. You might have seen some of these changes live as well. But then we'll talk about where we're going from here and what the next steps are looking like. So a week from today would put us on November 21st. Which was a good 4 days after the release. So we had a couple things that I announced in the last stream as well. But since then, we've been pretty busy with fine-tuning the season ending mechanics. And I'll talk through that in just a moment. So, for starters, we had a couple issues with players who were trying to get from a spectate page into a launcher, which is the map voting page before their ranked games. They were getting lost somewhere in that transition. We figured out why that was happening and got that patched so that you should never have that situation where you think you're supposed to be in a ranked game, but you for some reason aren't getting the button to get redirected into it. Now it should be redirecting you either automatically or showing you that button every time. So if you ever see a launcher happening or a game happening, you're like, I'm supposed to be in that game, let us know because something went wrong. We think we've patched up all the edge cases there. We have a fix that went in for texture packs. We were getting an increase in reports for players who were trying to load into a game. It would say that the game was loading, and then it would say it was loading like one last file, like the splats file was loading, and it would get stuck on that page for about 10 seconds, and then they'd get booted to the home page and couldn't join their game. We've created a new kind of fallback when that happens to just give you a default image instead of trying to find and failing to find your image and then kicking you to the homepage, which is obviously not what you want. I think it's better to give somebody the wrong texture pack and still be in the game versus not getting into that game at all. So that should be live. And a lot of updates. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this, but a lot of updates to the skill score calculations. These are smaller updates in terms of overall impact, but pretty important ones for long-term, putting players in the right place, if you will. Mostly what we've been focusing on is trying to ensure that the calculations are able to fix players who are misranked. So we have a pretty good testing ground for this right now in Season 0 because we talked about that skill score creep where players at the very top with a large number of games are only out in front by that margin because they've been playing so many games. So they've been gaining extra score as they were going because before this last release, we were adding stuff into the system unintentionally. So because of that, across the entire leaderboard, we have players who are misranked because they haven't played many games or they have played many games and their actual location should be somewhere in between those two boundaries. So what we've been doing is ensuring that if somebody's winning a lot of games in a row, they are going to increase the rate at which they are climbing. So if you're, say, for example, somebody in tier 5 and you win 15 straight games, you probably shouldn't be in tier 5 anymore. So we're not just forcing you up unnaturally, we're just increasing the amount that you gain as you go. And then on the flip side, if you're losing a bunch of games, it does increase the rate at which you lose that. So we had a little bit of back and forth. I think we overcorrected it. Now we've pulled it back a little bit. I'm pretty happy with where it's at right now, but we're going to keep monitoring it for the next day or two and see how that shakes out. But if you're seeing anything weird with those calculations, obviously let us know. I think there's a little bit of confusion with the post-game updates on the leaderboard. People are seeing like, oh, I got +1 for this. Somebody else got +9. Sometimes somebody got like +30 at one point. If you're seeing that, what most likely is happening is you are getting a smaller number because you have a lot of games played and you've been winning and losing pretty consistently. Not all like alternating, but most often you're winning a couple games, you're losing a couple games. You're in roughly the right location. So your adjustments are very small as a result. If you're seeing somebody with bigger numbers, 8, 9, 10 on their gains or their losses, that player has been losing or winning multiple games in a row, and the game is picking up on the fact that they are probably not in the right place. So it's not that they are getting more for the win, it's that they have been winning so many games or losing so many games that the game realizes they're not supposed to be where they actually are, and it's trying to get them to where they should be faster. For the really, really big ones that you're seeing, like +30 at one point somebody saw, that actually somebody saw it as +60, that was the overcorrection that we walked back a little bit. That is a result of somebody who has not played many games at all and is misranked. So if you haven't played ranked at all until a week ago, you join up for the first time and you go and you win your first 15 games straight, you're probably not supposed to be in tier 6, right? So it's taking that new player boost where your score is uncertain, is what we call it. That allows you to, your gains and your losses are going to be larger when you're uncertain because the game is still trying to put you in the right place. So compound that with a long win streak, together you're going to see much higher gains because the game's like, okay, this person's uncertain, but they're definitely not where they are right now. So get them the heck out of here up to where they're supposed to be. And then it should slow down as they approach where they are supposed to be. So again, we're monitoring this very closely, but it has been a lot of discussion on the back end for how do we do this. And actually, on that note, I want to talk about a big change that we made for how games are created. So previously, the way that the joiner worked is that it would take all the players who were available to it. It would try its best to make a game with those players, obviously. But once it did that, it would then take those 8 players and it would try to make the most even match possible, which more often than not is going to be a 50% win rate, one or the other. But that does not mean that is the only combination that creates a valid match. So we've set boundaries, and I've talked about this before, where a game needs to be higher than 40% win rate, lower than 60% for the opposite team to be considered a valid match. So anything in there is okay. So usually when you have 8 players, you can generate 4, 5, 6, sometimes even up to 10 combinations of those 8 players that all fall within that 40 to 60 range. So what we were doing before this release was we didn't care about that. We were just taking the one in the middle, the 50% win rate, and that it worked. It made even games, but it also makes it a lot harder for the skill score to kind of figure out where you're supposed to be, because one of the biggest things that we were using, that we wanted to use, was winning disfavored games and losing favored games. So maybe there was a game where the best combination it could make was 45% win rate. If you won that, you were going to gain more, or if you lost that, you were going to lose more if you were expected to do the opposite. So that allows us to fine-tune the score a little more, and we weren't really using that because so often everything was falling to 50%. So what we changed was now we generate all possible combinations inside of that 40 to 60 range, and then we just randomly pick one of them. And more often than not, it's still going to be 45% or higher just because of the skill score calculations, but it does allow for games that are all the way down to a 40% win rate to still occasionally be created, which hopefully, from what we've seen so far, is letting us fine-tune where players are supposed to be a little bit more. So you're going to see some games that aren't quite as balanced as they were before on paper, but in practice, it should actually rank players more accurately to the point that we do get better games in the end because people are where they are supposed to be. So again, we're monitoring it very closely. I think it's going to work out pretty well, but if you're seeing things that are really unexpected, obviously let us know, and we'll try to check it out and go from there. If you're interested in raw numbers, I think if you look at the Bug Reports channel on Discord, Bambi just posted a breakdown from a statistical perspective, not a whole lot we can do with it, but from a raw data standpoint, it is interesting to see that the total number of games created at 50% is still way out in front of everything else. So there are 828 games since the release with a 50% win probability, 676 at 51%, all the way down to 60% win probability. There have only been 29 of those. So just to give you some perspective, there are a lot more games created that are going to be very close, fewer games that are going to be less close. But even those less close games are still 40 to 60. That's still a winnable game for either side of that matchup. Obviously, one side has a better chance, but still. Yeah, so that was a big part of what we talked about last week or so. After that, we've got mostly fixes to things that weren't quite working properly. Where did this go? Texture pack thing. Win streak boosts. Okay, yeah, this is all stuff to do with the season resets. So fixing the awarding of flares when the season ends. I've talked about this before, so I'm not going to go into much detail, but if you finish a season and you are active, so you're on the leaderboard, you keep whatever tier flare you earned into the next season. But if you don't earn it again that season, after that season ends, you lose it unless you re-earn it again in the future. So to making sure that works, making sure that when a season ends that the leaderboard doesn't disappear, it's going to turn from a current leaderboard to a historical leaderboard. So everything should still look the same on the leaderboard tab of the site. But I should show this real quick just so you see what I'm talking about. So currently it says season 0 current. When it goes to season 1, it'll automatically go to season 1 current. But if you want to go back to season 0, that should still be there. In between seasons, so if season 0 ends and season 1 has not started yet, which should not be long, we still want it to show season 0. It was not doing that, fixed that, so now it will be doing that. So little things like that to make sure that it looks okay. We had more launcher issues that were patched up. Boring backend stuff. Tested neutral flag to make sure that was working properly. Oh, I forget if this went live or not. We have a change to the spectate page where if a game ends, instead of this banner up top saying red team wins or blue team wins and hiding the score, it should now pop up down at the bottom here and say that team wins. Because once the game ends, you're not going to be able to spectate the game anymore. It's over. So why cover up the score to show you that somebody won when we can cover up the button you can't use anymore to show you that you won? A very straightforward fix that we didn't think of in the initial release. I haven't actually seen it in practice yet, but I think if I leave this up here while I'm talking, we'll see it in a minute. Talked about the team randomizer selector thing. With the resets. Come on. Sorry, it was a lot of small tweaks to the skill score adjustments that I was just talking about. So scrolling through all of that. Oh, we found an error that nobody's going to care about, but there's an error that we've been getting once every like 3 or 4 days for the last 3 years. And we could never figure out what the source of the error was. It wasn't causing a crash. It wasn't like the site was going down or the games weren't working or anything like that, but it was still just printing an error every once in a while. And we're like, what the heck is this? We couldn't figure out what it was. It turns out that it has to do with a player trying to load a page and also logging out at the same time, so that when they finish logging out, the request for their page comes back and it's like, oh, that person doesn't exist anymore, which is entirely true, but we don't need to be getting an error for it. So we finally suppressed that error message because it's been driving us kind of crazy, clogging up the feed. Obviously not frequently, it's like every few days, like I said, but still a funny thing that I'm glad to not have to worry about anymore. This says that the thing is live, so in a minute we should see what that looks like. More adjustments to the back and forth. Oh, fixes to the chat filter. That was a big one. Couple thing, one front end, one back end thing. The way that we had done this originally was putting messages together, then testing those against the filter. It's still doing that, but we added a delineator so that I can fine tune the hard filter better. So what that means in practice is that you should see fewer words that are not bad words hitting the hard filter. Now it should remove almost all of them, actually. So if you're still seeing words hitting the filter, we are still working on it, but a lot of those should be fixed now, which is really good. Then we fixed a different issue with that only the moderators were mad about, which was that we have a hard filter and a soft filter. The hard filter blocks the word entirely. The soft filter lets the word through, but also says, hey mods, take a look at this and make sure it's not actually a bad word. What was happening was somebody would hit the soft filter, we would get a ping, then they would say something else completely unrelated, and the thing that hit the ping the first time plus that new message together also created a ping. So we'd have one ping and then another ping, and like 7 pings in a row for one message. Okay, let's see if this works here. Please. Yeah, okay, look at that. Right at the bottom, so it's not blocking the score, and very straightforward. So I think that's a much better look for that. If you disagree, let me know, but I think we're pretty comfortable with that. My mic is quiet. I hope you could hear what I was saying. Let me fix that real quick. How about now? Is that easier to hear? I'm going to assume yes until I hear otherwise. Should I eat my microphone? Can you hear me, Yalpa? I'm sure it's fine. All right, almost done with the dev updates. We've got limit spam, map voting. Oh, I think I haven't pushed this yet, so it's not live yet, but I think I found the issue with the overtime stuff in the launcher. So if you are in a launcher and a player of yours has not joined the map voting page yet, sometimes on the top right, that countdown, you'll see it jumps between players and OT game, 5 seconds remaining, and it'll kind of flip-flop a couple times before you actually go into a game. I think that I found the source of that. I have to test it a few more times, but hopefully we can get that live soon. So that's up, that one live. I think that's everything that we did this week. So other things that have been happening here. Actually, the candy board is the next thing I want to talk about. So this is nothing anybody can do with. This isn't information that you guys are really going to matter for. It's going to matter for you guys, but the candy board has been sending me a couple emails saying that we're going to get pushed off the free plan. So we've been using this for a few years now. I think it works quite well, but they offered us a replacement plan that's the exact same thing for $150 a month, which is slightly out of our budget range. So what that means is that we're going to be looking at a different way of doing the same thing, hopefully an in-house version of essentially what Canny is, because it's really just like a message board. So we're going to try to build our own with a library that we found. And yeah, so if the Canny board stops working at any point, just know that we are trying to fix that. I don't know, I have an exact timeline for when we'll have the replacement up, but it should look pretty similar on the front end. You should still be able to go to the feedback tab and submit your requests and all that. So we'll see where that goes. But if you know any alternatives to Canny, feel free to let me know. And I think that is everything development related that happened this week. So next steps. As I mentioned, we've been testing and finalizing all of the things required to end a season. Ending a season is the next big priority right now. I was waiting a couple days to make sure those skill score adjustments were working as expected. I can say now that they are. So in the next 2 days, 3 days, we're going to try ending the season and starting season 1. And hopefully that goes as expected and everything works fine. But we're going to get a full backup of the database, make sure that if something does go wrong, we can just roll back to how it was before, just to be safe, because I don't want to risk losing anything ranked related for season 0. And yeah, then we'll see what happens. So between now and then, we might try putting neutral flag up for a day, just to make sure that the queue can handle it. I'm not sold on having a full-time neutral flag queue just yet. I'm kind of torn on it because I want to see how it works. I feel like it would work fine to have both up. I just want to make sure things don't get too complicated too quickly. So this isn't decided on yet. I'm thinking out loud right now. I think we're going to have it up for a day. Assuming it works well, we can keep it up at the start of season 1. But if it gets to a point where queues aren't popping and there's a problem with players getting games, we're probably just going to remove it until we are in a better place for like the Steam release and all that. But I don't think it's going to come to that. I think we can keep it in, but we'll see. We'll see how it works. So that's that. Candy board time, because I don't think I had any responses to the... Yeah, no responses to the question form. If you have any questions for me, the description should have a form. You can fill it out. I'll answer those on stream. I don't see anything in the chat other than my voice being audible now, which is good. So moving on to the candy board. So last we left off, we were talking about sounds when people join and chat in group. We're going to come back to that in a little bit, but let's move on. We've got a few to get through here because I didn't do anything last week. So when waiting for a teammate to finish a casual game while in the ranked joiner, allow them to communicate using the pre-game text chat. So I can see what they're going for. This is saying that if a player or a teammate of yours is currently in a game and you are on the map voting page, they want the player in the game to be able to type to the players who are waiting on the map voting page. I think I'm actually against this, not because it's a bad idea, but because I don't think it actually fits with the flow that we are going for right now. So the goal when a player is in a casual game and is going to be redirected to a ranked game is to get them out of that casual game as soon as they can be removed without obstructing the casual game. So I don't want them thinking it's the right time for them to sit and chat or something. I want them to be playing the game. Hopefully the game is ending for them or they are popping and getting replaced soon. I don't think this is productive from a casual game perspective. It might be cool for the players in the ranked game to know that they're coming or something, but that should be the baseline expectation. You shouldn't ever expect a player to not show up in your ranked game. So I'm going to go with no on this one. I do see the justification, but I don't think this really fits with what we're going for. Justification is understood. Oops, understood. However, the goal of the casual ranked pipeline is for it to be seamless for both the ranked and the casual game. If players are typing in their casual game to players not in that game, it will impede that flow. Get that. Frozen on loading screen. I think this was related to the issue that I just mentioned, where we are having all these items loading and then it kicks you back to the home page. Now it will try to get your particles or try to get your images, and then it will send you into the game with defaults if it can't find what it's looking for. So bash handled that. We'll move on from that. Ranked games joiner bug. 2 games in a row where 6+ people didn't join, the game voided. November 18th. I think this was a crash, actually. Yeah, this was related to a server crash. Looking at the logs right now. The 18th, yeah, we had pushed a change right before this and it didn't work. Related to a server crash that has been patched. If it happens again, please let us know. Broken back button on leaderboards. Go to leaders, go to leaderboards, click any player name, click back on browser, ranked is selected. Okay, go to leaders, go to leaderboards, click any player name, click back, ranked is selected. Oh, well, okay, that's not... We don't save the tab that you're on. You're reloading the page, and that's the default for the... That's not a... No, okay, that's not a bug. This is expected behavior. Each new page load will bring you to the default tab, which is now set to the ranked tab. Okay. I think this is fixed now, so I can mark it as complete. This was patched in a silent release. If it happens again, Please let us know. Add wins required values for rank. Oh, yes. Okay, this is from Grant from our stream last week, I believe. So for ranked flares that require a number of wins before they can be achieved, add a way to see how many wins you need before you earn the flare. This can be added to the profile page as well. And then on the leaders page, show how many games are required not to be inactive. Yeah, so this is a thing I really want to do. I asked Grant to put this in for me. I still can't figure out why that happens sometimes. They all turn yellow. But so what Grant is saying is if I am a player who is currently not active and say I'm not sure when I'm going to earn this flare. So with the bronze flare, if I hover over that, I can say requires 20 wins at or above this tier to earn the bronze flare. Fine. I don't know how many wins I have though. Well, I know how many because I can see that stuff on the back end, but for a player who's coming to the site, what does 20 wins mean? I've been playing for, I don't know, a couple weeks. I've won like 5 or 10 games. I don't know how many more do I need to get this flare. That information should be presented on that screen so they can see that just by hovering or by looking at that there. The other part is that I am inactive. I have played 462 games. The requirement for activity right now, again, 15 games per week average over the course of the season. That will be easier to maintain after Season 0 because Season 0 has been so long that it just isn't realistic for anything else. But it should show you, okay, you have 462 games. You need 520 or whatever the number is to actually be considered active. So it should show you out of whatever. And we do something like this for win rate where we say, okay, you've played 50 games in the last 30 days. You've played 300 in the last 90 days. Those are the requirements to earn this flare. We should have the exact same thing just for ranked. You have played, I had it again. You have played this many games. This is what you need to earn. So we're going to make a ticket for that because I fully agree that we should have that. So let us do that. Display ranked wins required for earning new flares and leaderboard activity. On the leaders tab in the ranked section, do we need to play games after the flares got released to earn the flares, or were they automatically unlocked? I'd check myself, but on mobile right now. Everything that you're seeing with the flares earned, I think you're talking about these ones up top where it's like a tier flare. Those were only started to be awarded after this most recent release. Now, don't worry about that because Season 0 is temporary. Anything that happens in Season 0, you're not going to be penalized. You're not going to be missing anything long-term because of this. So what that means for Season 0, if you had a number of wins before this release went live, those wins do not count towards these flares. Not because we didn't want them to, just because we didn't have the information that we needed in the data that we were storing to then go on and award those flares. So only wins after the release are counting towards those. Now, you also said to earn the flare. Sorry, I think I'm misunderstanding the question. Do we? Yeah, no, okay. That's the question. Answered. Done. At the end of Season 0, if you were not active on the leaderboard, any flare that you earned is going to go away. You're going to start over for Season 1. If you were active, you're going to keep that highest flare that you earned, but you still need to work your way back up to get to anything higher in that season. Feel free to reach out on Discord. I can explain that in a little more detail. But the gist of it is, if you played any games in Season 0, you're going to get the permanent flare, and then anything else that happens is temporary, and you're going to be able to re-earn those flares in Season 1. So don't worry about playing a bunch of games just to get a flare right now. It's not critical. So on the leaders tab in the ranked section, we have a list of tiers and the wins required to earn the flare for that tier available on hover. Should it be on hover or should it be just displayed automatically? I think I lean towards on hover because you don't want it to be like obstructing everything. Requires 20 wins, like requires 5 more wins at or above this tier. I think that would be best. And then instead of requires all previous tier flares, it would say requires gold if that's the only one you don't have, plus 10 wins at or above this tier. I think that's probably what I go for. Modify the on hover text to display number of wins remaining to earn that flare EX. What did I just say? Requires 6 more wins at or above this tier. Yeah, that's good enough for me. Then at the top, what do we call this section? The, I don't know. In the upper section with games played, reserve name, skill score, etc. Modify the inactivity text, which is this, to include the number of games required to be considered active. You have 200 games. You need 250 games to be considered active, or something like that. That's close enough for the sake of the spec. That is an enhancement. And relevant candy request. Let's grab that as well. Boom. Okay. Get that up there. And then we can say this is planned. And then we'll add that text in there. Boom. Okay. Next. Change tutorial and learning the game to something interactive. Okay, that's a lot of words. I think we have a ticket for this already. Let me just confirm that. We do not. Okay, fair enough. Let's read it then. People like hands-on learning. We don't have a way to do that. Agreed. TagPro doesn't work very well with a single new player who has no idea what they're doing. Fair to some extent. Yeah, I think we have a ticket like this somewhere. It's basically just saying that there should be some sort of interactive tutorial. We talked about this on stream about a month ago, I want to say. Where we were saying what would an interactive tutorial actually be? Let me find that document real quick. Because we had walked through like what do we think is important enough to show them? What kind of things do we make them do that would get them in a place where they can actually contribute to the game? Nope, that's the transcript for the actual tutorial video. Where did this go? There we go. Yeah, so the plan is to build an interactive new player tutorial, which can be loaded into and played as a regular game before entering your first public game. Then we... Oh, did my music just cut? No, okay. Walked through what to do. So we have a custom map with a bunch of different rooms where you can do specific things, and we'll have like little prompts in the chat that says do this next, do that next, so they can see what they're supposed to be doing in certain situations. And I'm pretty comfortable with how this landed off. We had 7 different rooms and got most of the important things in it, if I'm not mistaken. So what I'm going to do with this is just say that it's in progress, because we have, not in progress, planned, because we do have a document for this. Specifications for an interactive tutorial have been built. Has not yet been assigned to a developer. will be prioritized when possible. Yeah, okay. What else? Please make it mobile too. We are mobile on the Play Store. We are not yet mobile on the App Store, but it is actually in progress. And I'm going to talk to Harry Kane before next week and give you all an update on that, just to get better information about where this is at. And yeah, I'm really excited to have it on. Yeah, the Play Store because the App Store, because that's what I have, and I would like to play TagPro on my phone. It'd be fun, but not ready yet. So soon. Add No Kiss to Tier 1 games. That is controversial. Get out of my chat, spirit. Scram. How do I delete those messages? Man, if I knew what I was doing, this would be so easy. Oh, not published to chat. Okay, fine. Okay, I think for the most part, everyone in Tier 1 would prefer No Kiss. So this is a controversial request for a couple of reasons. I understand the appeal for No Kiss. I understand they use it in the competitive leagues for North America. I understand that a lot of players think that it progresses the meta or is more fun. The problem is that not everyone thinks that. And of the not everyone who thinks that, a lot of them still would be playing with Tier 1 players. So with No Kiss, my main issue with the premise of No Kiss is not that I don't enjoy it. I think it's fun. I actually like being a flag carrier more in No Kiss. I like the way that it plays. But No Kiss is a progression to the meta that I don't think that the game needs to be in a good place right now. And what I mean by that is the thing holding TagPro back right now is not the ceiling of the game. It's not that we don't have a high enough ceiling and that's why the game is not growing. It's stuff like the development progress that we're working on and outreach and marketing and all that. So if we get to a point where the meta is the thing that is slowing the game down the most, I'm on board with a change like this. But it's controversial from the start. You'd have to have players understanding that different games are different settings, which could maybe work. Like if you had like a notification in the map voting page, like, hey, this game is going to be played with these settings, like players know ahead of time, that's okay. But it's adding in extra considerations to add a thing in that I don't think we necessarily need right now to continue on the path that we're on. So for now, I'm a no on this. I'm not a no on this forever, though. This is the kind of thing that I want to revisit after the Steam release and say, okay, are we getting to a point where things are ballooning at the top and there's a big cluster of players and nothing really sets them apart? What kind of meta changes can we explore that will help string out the top so that it's still competitive and there's still some vying for first place without just being an RNG thing at the top each game? And I think that No Kiss could be at the front of that conversation. I think some different tile types would also be up there, and some other little settings changes that we've talked about in the past that are in like the experimental settings right now. But as it stands now, I don't think this is what the game needs to continue where we're going. So this is going to be an under review thing. Idea is not opposed, but the game is not in a place right now where progressing the meta is critical. Will be revisited with higher player counts or with more grouping. Gosh, typing today is bad. At the top of the leaderboard. Yeah, I think that's enough for now. Happy to talk more if anybody wants to chat about that, but yeah, I'm not super in on that idea just yet. All right, replace the trophy beside ranked games on the spectate page with the average rank of the game. Right now, each rank is a trophy. If the average is rank 3, then the platinum would be... So this is saying that on this page here, instead of showing a little trophy here, they want it to show the average of the tier 5 and tier 6, which I think this would be a tier 5 average, I guess. And they want that to say tier 5. I don't really know what information that provides you with. The little trophy is supposed to just be some sort of visual indicator that that's not a casual game. And for anybody curious why some players have an actual player here, those are players who have not played ranked yet. So that's an unranked player who's in their first game, most likely. I don't think I support this either, in truth. I think this is not a change that really does anything for us. I think we could argue there are better icons than a trophy maybe, but I don't think that the better icon would be an ugly square with a number in it. It's just not... I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. Redundant information. This is not... How do I say this? Justification is heard. Is understood. However, duplicated information is not necessary, and tiers are not something we can cleanly average due to sub tiers. The indicator is only meant to have ranked games stand out from casual. This is a terrible day for my keyboard. Okay, close that. Add more info to the replays API. Skill movement, which team won and lost, the whole tagpro.eu file. Well, we can't include tagpro.eu files because that's not a thing that we host. We did add some stuff to the replays. I'm not sure. What did we add? In the last release, we put in 3 different things to replay files. We included skill score for each player, team average, and then if the game was voided. Okay, so they're saying that in addition to those things, they also want to have post-game movement, like if the player went up or went down. I think that is in there somewhere. It's just not there in a clean presentation. Like if I go to a replay right now and I watch the replay back, at the end of that game, you will see on the scoreboard, this thing pops up and it says that you won or you lost. So that information does exist in the replay. It's just not presented as a standalone field that you can fetch from the replay. I'm trying to figure out where it actually is, though. I think it might be in one of the emits at the end of the game, or we send out the update to the game. So you would just need to look in the stream of data that is the replay. I'm trying to figure out how to explain this properly. Everything that happens in the game is an emit. It sends information out to the client. One of those last emits is going to have the information that you're looking for with the adjustments. So, yeah, that's all not in progress. This information is available in replay files. Oh, he's saying on the, hold on. He's saying on this page, I'm sorry. This is the game history page. Yeah, this is a list of games, how long the game was, what team you were on. The winner is there, so that exists. Players, user ID. This is really hard to read, sorry. There we go. Okay, so they're saying they want this to also include the adjustments to skill score. Okay, that's a reasonable request. So winner does exist. Team 1 is the red team, if I'm not mistaken. Team 2 is the blue team, I think. Yeah, 1, 2. Okay, I'm gonna say planned, but also the winner of the game is already available in the data at the link you have provided. The field winner is either 1 or 2. 1 represents the red team. Yeah, okay. Ticket has been submitted internally for post-game skill score adjustments to be offered at this page. And let's actually make that ticket now. Offer post-game skill score adjustments. Why can I not type today? Skill score adjustments on the replays. I don't think it's an API. I think this is not an API, but he's calling it an API. Just gonna call it replay summary. Okay, relevant canny request. Add more info is the name. Add more info. Winner portion of the request already exists. Player would like to see post-game adjustments in addition to the current information. And then put that there so they can just see right there. And that would be an enhancement. Okay. Good enough. Ranked loss mitigation system. What does that mean here? For games that have a teammate start off AFK or go AFK during the game and let up caps, the other teammate should get back a 12% or however long they were AFK to show. I see. Yeah, this is going to be under review because I do have a couple of thoughts on this. It's currently an ongoing discussion. We're trying to address on the best way to address this case and also the case of a player not joining the game at all. No, sorry, that's not what it is. And also the case of a player leaving as the game starts, then returning to the game after a capture has happened, resulting in no void for the 3v4 team, but a full game at a disadvantage. So to walk through that a little more clearly, if you join 4v4 and then one of your teammates leaves, the game starts 4v3, the 4 comes, grabs your flag, they capture, and then your player comes back before the void timer kicks in. There's no penalty for the player who left and came back. There's no benefit for the 3 players who were playing 3v4 there. The team with 4 just now has an advantage for that full game, which is not great because now the other 3 are like telling this player to quit again, which is not great. Or they're complaining the whole time not playing the game, or they're just like not trying because they know the game is lost, or I think the game is lost. And it's just the whole game's kind of a wash because that player disconnected and came back. But there's no penalty, so there's nothing telling this player not to do that again other than being harassed by their teammates, which is not the way that we want the system to work. So we're trying to figure out what the best approach is right now to stopping that. Is it a shorter AFK timer? Is it a faster void after the player has left the game? Like, do we just go straight to a void within a couple of seconds instead of giving them like 20 seconds to come back? Do we offer some sort of compensation like this is saying for the team of 3? Like, do they get something back if they end up losing? Do they get like the equivalent of like a ranked save attempt kind of thing? So we have a couple options that we're trying to talk through right now. If you have thoughts on that, obviously feel free to share. But we aren't quite set on the best way to go about addressing this just yet. So yeah, I'm going to mark this under review because it is currently in discussion, and hopefully we can come up with a plan that doesn't suck, and we'll see what happens. But we save that for now. Almost done. Red, blue, default. I like the ability to change the default red, blue ball or something. What? Am I? Change the default red, blue balls to something like green, yellow, purple. Alternate colors without having to change the entire texture pack. I don't know what this is asking for. You want the ability to change the colors of the balls that you look at without changing the texture pack, which changes the colors of the ball. What? Yalp, are you still in the chat? What does this mean? You want to change your texture pack without changing your texture? It's a texture pack. That's what the color of the... What am I missing here? Help. I'm gonna ignore this because I feel like I'm missing something. So we're gonna skip over that. Yalpa, if you watch this back later, what the heck is that about? Bronze ranked leaderboard short counting. The ranked leaderboard shows the count for bronze players. Undercounted, it currently says there are 10 and lists quite clearly who the 10 are. When I play with a bunch of bronze level players, there's always 3 or 4 who aren't on the list at all. They aren't new, and they aren't players who were in silver. Gotcha. So this is a product of the calculations. So right now, these numbers over here only represent the players who are active. So the players who have averaged more than 15 games per week for the whole season. So I, for example, am in Platinum 2, but I am inactive because I have not played enough games. I am not included in this 48. So they're saying they're only seeing 10, but they see more than 10 players. Most of the players in bronze were not getting ranked games before this release, so they do not have the number of games required to be active. That will be fixed in the future, but for now, there are only 10 active bronze players. Yelpa says, I posted a couple images a few days ago showing how red-blue changed to the jersey colors I used. He wants to play with his texture pack, but not with that texture pack displaying red-blue for balls. I'm going to have this conversation with you not on stream because I am not following what that means. But I'm glad you know what that means. Hopefully we can get on the same page with that. So answering the actual thing here. So this is not a bug. This is not broken. This is a non-issue necessarily. So the player counts on the leaderboard are only for players who are active, greater than 15 games week, whole season, due to lower ranked players struggling to get into ranked games early on before the most recent release. Most players at, what am I saying? Most of them not meeting the current activity requirements. This will be fixed for season 1 when the games required for active is reset, but until then it is expected to be seeing a smaller number on the leaderboard than in games. Okay, hopefully that made sense. That will be fixed with season 1 because in season 1 the required games goes all the way back down to 0, and then it's just 15 per week from then on. So I'm getting a lot of pushback on the 15 per week, so I do want to talk about that for a second. I'm not dead set on it. I think that there's maybe some leeway to push it down to like 12 games per week, but we want to make sure we're doing, and the reason this is important is that the numbers that we pick here decide how many players the joiner thinks that it has. And if the joiner thinks that it has too many players, like for example, if we had the requirement set to 5 games per week of active, we would have like 600 active players. But with those 600 active players, if we create 8 tiers and spread them across it, it's going to go back to the problems that we had before this release, because a lot of those active players are not joining the queue regularly. So we want the we want the tiers to be reflecting the player counts for players who are actively getting into the joiner, often playing ranked games, and that we can count on having present to be creating games. If we try to make those numbers with if we try to make those tiers with smaller activity requirements, we're more likely to get bloated tiers with players who don't play, and then games aren't happening. So it's a tricky line to toe. We had originally, at my request, had 2 different definitions of active. We had active to be on the leaderboard, and then active to be considered for the tiers. That kind of fell apart because the calculations we used were giving us the wrong results. It was bad basically. But we might need to revisit that concept so that people who are still playing somewhat regularly, like I think I play a decent amount, but I'm not active because I haven't played a lot. So I don't think I should count towards the tiers, but I probably feel like I should be on the leaderboard so I can see where I am and all that. So it's an ongoing conversation. I'm not super set either way on it, but I do think there is some room for us to allow more players to see themselves on the leaderboard and to be ranked without messing up the tier calculations. So it's a little thing that we'll kind of fine tune in time, but that is something that we are monitoring and hopefully can improve in the future. So ignoring that, I think 15 per week is a good number to keep people playing too. It's not that many games besides. The number was picked intentionally. If you look at the win rate tab, if you look at this here, it said in 90 games to earn an axe flare, you needed to have, oh wow, look at me. To earn the axe flare, you needed to have played 300 games in 90 days. If you run the numbers on that, 300 games divided by 90 days gives you 3.3 games per day. 3.3 games per day times 1 week, you get about 23 games per week. So we were requiring, before ranked was even a thing, 23 games per week to be eligible for the axe flare. So take that number and say, okay, ranked games, this keeps happening. In ranked games, you can't get as many games because the games are a little bit longer. The queue times, as expected, are a little bit longer. So how do we cut that number down? We came down from 23 to 15. That's how we settled on that number. We can go lower. I just talked about why it's not a done deal to do that. But as MC Ride said, that higher number is also a little bit of motivation for players to be joining the queue and playing regularly. So the goal with that is to fine tune how low can we get it that it's still keeping people included, but how high can we keep it that players are still motivated to play those games. And I don't want people to be just doom loading up TagPro because they have to make the leaderboard. Like I don't want it to be like a negative connotation, but we do want players playing the game. So how do you pick the middle? I think the 15 a week that we landed on is a pretty good middle for that right now, but as I said, it's still an ongoing thing. So we'll keep monitoring that and see how it plays out. So those are my thoughts. Moving on. When an expansion is scheduled for ranked mode, the expansion schedule notification covers up the drop-down menu that shows, oh, look at that. Huh. I'm surprised. Those 2 features were built at the same time, so we probably just forgot to test them together. I can't show you guys that now because it doesn't exist anymore. So what that expansion scheduled text down here, you can kind of see it in there. If we get above the threshold required to make a new tier. So right now it's 30 players per tier who are active, as we just talked about. If you get beyond 30 players per tier, if you can get 30 players into the next tier. So right now we have 6 tiers, 30 players per tier, 180 players. If you count up the players on the board, there are currently 215. So if there are 215 here, why don't we have 7 tiers? The answer is that we have a surplus. So you need 30 per tier plus an additional 10, and you need to maintain that for 5 days to be very, very certain that we actually have enough players to make that new tier the next level down. So right now at 215, we have enough for 7 tiers, but we don't have that surplus, which would be 220. We did hit that surplus last week. I think 3 or 4 days ago, we hit that surplus. We got the expansion scheduled, but it needs to stay above that threshold for 5 days, and it failed to do so. It dropped down to 215 where it's at right now. So it's not above that surplus for long enough. So if we had expanded, it might have been a bloat tier. We wouldn't have had enough games being created in that tier. So the joiner said, oh, actually, we thought we had enough. We don't have enough. We're not going to expand to 7 tiers. So I'm glad that was working as expected. We won't get to see a tier expansion during season 0, but I'm pretty comfortable that it's working properly anyway on the back end. So nothing to worry about there. But this bug does need to be fixed. So let's make a ticket for that. And then we can move on to our last one. So tier expansion, text overlaps with active ranked game data. And I'm just going to yoink this image. Run an expansion. Scheduled. It overlaps the active games text when the drop down is expanded. Okay. Relevant candy post. Relevant. Oh, come on. And then that is super minor visual bug. Okay, that is a bug. That is a low effort bug. Let's create that. Plan. Developer will be included if time allows. Thank you for that note. Okay, last post for now. We've got the competitive distraction announcer pack. Oh boy, what is this? This pack replaces the standard announcer and some in-game sounds with voices and commentary that actively work against the player's focus. What? The flag grab sound replaced by a screeching sound and a man yelling, "Stop, you have been reported to the IRS. Freeze or your flag privilege will be revoked." Wow. This, Yelpa, you still here? We got to get this in on the sound packs that we're working on. So we are currently working on improved sounds. I don't know if this will be a default option that we offer, but it will be easier with that release in the future to make your own sounds and add them in. You made a script for Dubic, I kind of like this one. Excellent. So I'm gonna under review this and just say that improved sound packs are on the way. Hopefully you are able to make a custom pack which meets your needs, gives you what you want, which matches this to your heart's content. Smile. I don't know what to say. I gotta rate a couple more of these. Hold on. If a player jukes well or denies a power-up, a snarky, high-pitched voice. Look at you, Mr. Fancy Pants. Way to ruin the fun for everybody else. What? If the player holds for longer than 30 seconds, a dramatic clock ticking, yelling 30 seconds. That's 30 seconds you could have been contemplating the true meaning of the void. Your life choices are officially questionable. Awesome. Every time you hit a boost, a voice says vroom, you're going too fast. You're going to get a ticket. Okay, cute. When a teammate respawns, Well, look who decided to show up. Welcome back from your little nap. Try not to die again, champ. That's funny. That's good. That could be a cap sound, actually. Look who decided to show up. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna mark that as is and move on. But that is very, very funny. Thank you, T-Rex, for that. Now, what is next? I already went through. I didn't have any questions in the form this week. Off topic, says MC. I noticed that the group page waits for everyone to vote, but if a majority has already been matched, it could just launch. Yes. So 5 players all vote for one map. It doesn't have to wait for the other players. Could cut down on wait times for a bit. We did consider this, but we're a little sneaky with this. No, it's not addressed. The map voting page is 2 things. It is a map voting page, but it's also a check-in page to make sure that everybody is actually there, ready for the game to start. So the reason that we don't launch when a majority is reached is because anybody who has not voted has not confirmed that they are there and that they are ready for the game to start yet. So maybe a game pops and the map voting page is there, but I get up and I go to get some water. If everybody voted for the same map while I was away, I thought that I had 65 seconds. I come back and I'm 10 seconds into the game. That's going to be a problem. So it's still a check-in page where if you get up and leave and you haven't voted, it's going to wait that time no matter what you do. If you get back, then you can vote. The game will launch. So it is a thing that we could do to make the game happen faster, but it would probably also increase the frequency of voids and /or make players apprehensive to getting up and doing something in that time. And I don't want players to feel like they have to be locked to their computer when they thought they had a 60-second timer to work with. So I see the justification. I don't think it's something we're going to do right this minute. But you're thinking the right things in terms of wait time. We are trying to cut down on that as well. What we can do, hopefully, is maybe cut that down to like a 45-second map voting countdown so that the maximum is still locked, but it's not quite as long. I think we could afford to crunch that in a little bit, but we'll monitor that. It's not the highest priority, but definitely something we can consider as we go here. But good question, good note. So now, I think that's everything from the Canny board. So we're going to move on to our feature building session. I don't know if Grant is here or not. He's going to miss out this week because this is a little bit of a technical one. I was chatting with a player. Actually, I think everyone knows this player. I was chatting with the creator of the Gravity bot, which is not there for once. There's usually a group going on in the groups tab that has a bot they've made that has a rotation of Gravity maps that you can ask the bot to put a certain map up and it will launch it on whatever server you want. And it's got a whole long list of things. It's a very cool thing. But the way that we offer groups right now is that it is a link that anybody can join. You can make it public. Anybody can click in there from the groups tab. And then once you get into the group, there's no real awareness of who anybody is. So if you have a ranked or reserve name, you know that person is that reserve name. If they have a white name, you don't know who it is. Or if they're logged out, you don't have really any way of knowing who it is. So what that is leading to some problems with is that occasionally a player will join who is not logged in. They will harass somebody or they'll mess with the bot and then they'll leave. And the leader of the group doesn't really have any way of knowing who that was. So even if they ban that player, maybe that player pops on a VPN, comes right back in, does the same thing. We don't really have any sort of built-in moderation system for the group that gives them any freedom to control little things like that. So we can handle that as a mod team. We can keep track of who it is. We know if it's a certain player and we can stop them from doing whatever. But the group leaders themselves don't really have a whole lot of control over the groups that they are in. So what I'd like to talk through this week are some improved moderation standards for private groups or for public groups so that group leaders can do a little bit more to control the groups that they are trying to run. And we don't have to go crazy with this kind of stuff. We're not going to be doing things like giving them any personal information or things like that. I just think that we can give them more tools that allow them to set the group up in a way that it does what they want it to do without impeding the things they are trying to enjoy in the process. So we're going to make a document for this one, and I'm going to kind of list out the premise a little more clearly, and then hopefully we can talk through some of the considerations and call it a week. So broad overview, improved moderation tools for group leaders in public and private groups. Use case, anonymous players joining and harassing or messing with group settings, Gravity bot, then leaving or getting banned and coming back to do it again on a new IP or with an alt account. Okay, so a couple things that I had listed out ahead of time, and these are just broad points. We're going to talk through the details in a minute. Easy options to start with. Can you make a group? Tools. Make group reserved name only. Can you make group logged in only? Can you make group friends only? We don't have a friends feature yet, but that's something we want to do soon. And then make basic filters like that. Then sorry, I had one more thing that I can't find. Okay, we'll start with this and see what we can do. So right now, we also need to add a little bit more of a, I think, nuance to the banding system. So let's make a note there, nuance to group banding system. Because right now, if you ban somebody, they can come back, you don't know it's them, or if you ban somebody, they're banned from the group forever. We don't have any way of unbanning somebody from a group. You have to make a whole new group and start over. So let's talk about logged in only. Let's do that one first. So this one should be pretty straightforward because it can be a group setting, which would be, where would you put this? It would be probably over here somewhere. We'd change this checkbox things to maybe be its own checkbox. I'm not sure how we do that yet, but setting to toggle join permissions of a public group. So would this be public only, or would you also allow it for private groups? So if we're saying that you can only have logged in users, I feel like there's no reason to restrict that to only public groups, because if you have a private group and somebody manages to get a hold of the link, you would still want that enforced if that's a thing you wanted enforced. You wouldn't want somebody to be able to bypass a thing that you wanted just because you made the group private, right? So I think it would be enforced equally for both public and private groups. And permissions, so setting toggle join permissions so that any user without an account gets a pop-up. Sorry, only registered players are able to join this group, and provide them with a link to the login page, maybe. Offer them a link to the login page or the home page. If they close the pop-up, they just go to the home page, maybe the groups page. Because that's where they started from. I'm trying to think, do we also want to allow any exceptions to it as well? So we say that it's a public group. Say they made it logged in only. A player is logged out, clicks on it, and they get the pop-up, sorry, only registered users are allowed into this group. Would you like to log in or go back? And then they click, or they don't click anything. Like, should we also have like a request entry kind of thing where they can say, okay, I'm not logged in, but I still want to join this group. Can I be allowed into the group anyway? And like request from the group leader that they be added. Request system, or does that defeat the whole purpose? Because I'm thinking of a use case. If you have somebody who you know is going to be logged out, why would you restrict it to logged in players only? Like, would that ever come up? Like, why would you? Or is it like a group of friends who want to have a public group, but one of them can't log in for some reason? So like, okay, we're gonna let that logged out player get into the group, but nobody else. It just seems like a little too specific for me. But I'm going to hold on to that thought. I'll come back to that in a minute. So make group reserve name only. This one's a little more complicated because if the setting is toggled, player clicks to join a group, toggle on off, clicks to join a group, gets a like a warning or a pop-up or a notification. Stating this group is reserved name only. Please be aware that when you join group, your reserved name will be the only name displayed. And then even if they have a display name that's different from their reserve name, if I change my display name to whatever, that display name would not be shown in the group. It would still only show their reserve name in the group that they are in when they get there. And I think we just want players to know that ahead of time, because we don't want players to like, well, does it really matter? Because I think one of the big problems with reserve names is, or concerns the players have with reserve names, is that somebody's going to know that that display name is that reserve name. But then the other side of it is somebody wants to join a group anonymously. Now somebody else is going to know that they joined. So I think it's still better to have the warning because they're going to know. But the other question then is, do you have it be a pop-up that warns you, or do you just have a little indicator somewhere around here that says reserved only? Like, do you have some sort of indicator? I don't know where you would put it. Like different color, different, like an asterisk. Do you put like in this little space down here, like reserved names only? Like, I feel like a pop-up is a little bit extreme for what we're trying to do with this. But at the same time, if someone doesn't see that and they're not looking closely and then they have their reserve name shown, are they going to be upset? Do I care if they're upset? Is that really a bad thing? Like, oh no, somebody found out the name that you've reserved that nobody else can use. Is that really that bad? I feel like probably not. But the other concern is that, say somebody sends a group link to somebody on Discord, for example, and they say, hey, join my group, and they make that group reserved names only, and they just click on it without looking or anything. They get put into the group and their reserve name is displayed. Is that a breach of privacy? Is that a problem? Because it wouldn't even be about this page. It would be that if you're already on the group page, before it actually loads up that page, it's giving you that same warning. So I think that's pushing me back toward the pop-up, because you'd also want to do something for players in the group. Like, say you joined a group and it didn't do anything with reserve names. You joined a public group, you had a display name, you were only known as that display name in that group, and then the group leader clicks a setting and says, okay, reserve names only. If that's going to change your name over to your reserve name, you should have a chance to leave that group before your reserve name is displayed, probably. Or you just don't apply it to players who are already in the game, but that seems like a worse option. So I think, let me write these thoughts down. For players, sorry, I should zoom in on this so you guys can read. For players who open a group link, they receive the same pop-up before loading the group or before being displayed in that group, with the option to bail out to the groups tab if they do not want that information displayed. For players already in the group, when that setting is toggled, I'm stuck on this one, because what do you do in a situation where a player is in a group, has a reserve name displayed, the group leader clicks reserve names only, and then that player isn't at their computer? Do they have like 10 seconds to leave? Otherwise it's going to get displayed. Do they have 10 seconds to leave? Otherwise they get kicked out by default? Do they... like what happens if the group leader launches the game in that 10-second window, or if it's an indefinite window? Like you'd have to have some way of deciding after a certain amount of time. Toppy, the word you're looking for is exceptions with an E, not acceptions with an A. Exceptions for certain people sounds like a lot of complexity. You think I'm wrong? It's not an opinion thing. It's just what the word is. I think that adds a lot of complexity, making exceptions for certain players. But I can see what you're saying, where if it's like that same player who's going to be AFK, do you just allow them to keep their display name while the rest of the group switches over? I don't know. I don't love where that line of thinking goes. I think what I lean toward is for players already in the group when that setting is toggled, the pop-up is displayed with a 10-second countdown. If they do not click stay or something similar, they are kicked from the group but not banned, so they can rejoin. And with the stay button, do we have like a do not ask me again thing where like someone always wants to stay, they don't want to get kicked in the future? Like then I'm like, do we do like a profile setting where it's like group options? But that's like, it's such a niche use case. It just feels like overkill to have a profile setting to say that anytime I'm in a group with a display name and the group leader switches it from display names to reserved names only, I want to stay in the group instead of being kicked from the group. Like, it's just such a specific thing that it seems kind of silly to have a profile setting for it. But I think players would also get, well, how often is this going to get used is the other thing. Is this a thing that like, it's like that one group toggles it? How frequently when it gets toggled is somebody going to be in that group? I'd say not that frequently. There could be like a click spam, like a misuse by the group leader, but then why would anybody be in that group? Just make your own group and not have to deal with that. I think I'm going to just say there's a stay button and that's it, and not worry about the rest of the complexity of it, because most cases it's going to be handled by the pop-up when you're joining the group. It's just occasionally there will be somebody in that group already. Yeah, I think that works well enough for this at least. Same pop-up. Make it see. Oh, that's actually exactly what I was trying to remember before. Thank you, Toppy. So nuanced to group banning system, which would include removal from a private group game. Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. Just want to make sure I covered all my bases here with the reserve name thing. So it's a toggle on and off. If you are not in the group and you click on the group to join it, you get a pop-up saying this is a reserve names only group. If you go through, it's going to show your reserve name. I think we should only do that, only display this when the user has a display name that does not match their reserve name. Because if you have a reserve name and display name that are the same, you don't care. You're going to join, you know it's going to be your reserve name anyway, so why would that matter to you? So don't show the pop-up if it's not actually going to do anything. Same thing for all of these, actually. So that can be done here. Only display the pop-ups when the user's display name does not match the reserve name, and that, I think, fixes the bigger problem of that profile setting, because it's so specific, but it's only specific for an even smaller subset of people who use a reserve name frequently or display name frequently. So I think that's fine for now. So if you're joining the group, if you click a group link and you're loading into the group, or you are already in the group, for all three of those, you get a pop-up that says, hey, you have a display name that does not match your reserve name, just so you know, it's about to be shown as your reserve name. If you are already in the group, it's going to kick you in 10 seconds unless you click a stay button. Thank you, Not Toppy, for the follow. And that covers enough for me. Now, did we miss anything with the logged out now with that in mind? I don't think that we did, because it's just a yes or no. But if somebody's in the group already and they're logged out, if a player is in the group and is logged out, I guess you just have to kick them, right? Kick them from the group. Now, if the group leader is logged out, do they also get kicked? Or can they not use this feature? Not sure. Any thoughts in the chat there? I think it's okay for the group leader to be able to bypass the restrictions of the group because they're the group lead. Right? I think I lean toward group leader exception. That's the word, Toppy. Exception. So that they can apply the restriction without being affected. So I think that works for now. Friends only, I think we will handle same as logged out. Players would need to be friends with group leader. And this is the one where we don't have a friends feature yet, so I'm not going to worry about it too much, but this is the one where we could say also potential for a request-based joining system, not a friend. Here, not your friend would like to join your group. And then yes, no kind of thing. I think that there's some freedom to do that. But we don't need to worry about that until we have a friends feature. So, nuance of the group banning system. Thank you, Toppy, for the reminder here. There's a gravity group that a sumball runs on. It's 24/7. Yes, that's kind of what I was thinking of with all of this, actually. Just trying to make it more broad so it has other applications. But yes, I'm on the same page as you. So with the group banning system, I think what we want to do is when a player is banned from a group, offer an undo button that will keep them kicked from the group, but remove the ban so that they are able to rejoin. Now, does this also need to come with a bans log? I'm not sold on this, showing all players who were banned from a group, allowing the group leader to selectively remove the ban on any users. Now, this would get annoying because some balls would keep whatever name they had when they were banned in this log. And the problem with that is if somebody's like Sumball 5, I think if they refresh, they come back as Sumball 6, if I'm not mistaken. So it would just show whatever number they had when they were kicked. And then they would be allowed. Yeah, I think that's fine. Same thing for display names. Yeah, I don't think we need to worry about that. Just a banned users table with a remove banned column. Yeah, I think that the UI part of that's a little more annoying. Where do you show that? How do you make it not look like garbage? I'm not too worried about that yet. I think it'd be more like a little like bans thing that you just open it up and then it shows you everybody. I'm not gonna worry about that right now. Removal from private game. I'm gonna make that its own thing because this feels like a pretty important feature that we don't have. A modal, yes, exactly. So we're saying that if a group leader wishes to remove a player from an active private game, offer a kick from game. Offer, well, let's change this up. Let's say offers new selections in the kick modal. For those not aware, the kick modal is what happens when you click on a player on the leaderboard. It shows you, let me just show you guys because this is hard to explain. So if I go into a private game, and there's another player in this game, if I click on their name, now I'm a moderator, so this is different. I see ban, mute, and cancel. I think that for logged out players, this shows you report and then personal mute, if I'm not mistaken. So we would be changing, this is the kick modal. So I'm saying this would be changed to instead display kick from group and kick from game. Kick from group, kick from game. When selected, the user will stay in the current game, but lose access to group chat. Does that do anything? Is that worth having? I'm not sure. We'll come back to that in a second. Kick from game removes the player from the active game and sends them back to the group tab. Now, I think more often than not, it's going to be kick from both and game. So this would be removes the player from the active game and sends them to the home page. I think that we probably just want kick from game and kick from group and game, because if we have kick from group, what is that actually doing? So if they're disrupting the game that they're in, are they somehow in this game only disrupting this game in the group chat? Could they then not just go on to disrupt the game in the team chat or in the all chat? I don't know what kind of case that would really cover. So I think it's going to be kick them from the game, where they go back, they can continue to watch and spectate if they want to. The game if they wish, but not click join game. Now, if auto assign is off, do we default the player to waiting or to spectating? Because if you're in a game and you get kicked out of the game and auto assign is off, so self assign, that means that if you are not the group leader, you cannot change where you are, waiting, spectators, red or blue. So if Sunball here is in the game, gets kicked from the game, do they go to waiting? Do they get stuck there and they cannot also spectate? Or do they go to spectators and they are allowed to join? I think I lean towards putting them in spectators so that if they wanted to watch the game, they can, because if they are also disrupting the game from group chat, they could still do that from waiting. So that would be the group leader has to go back and kick them from the group. Well, that brings back the option for kick for group now. Do you allow the group leader to kick a player from the group via the group chat option? Like, do you say, can they click on the player's name in chat and kick them from the group so that they're not allowed to keep chatting? Because if I'm a group leader and I'm in a game and someone's disrupting the group that I'm in but not actually playing the game and I want to remove them right now, what I'd have to do is leave that game, go to the groups tab, and then kick that player from the group from there. There's no way to do that while you are currently in the game, but they're not on the leaderboard, so you can't click on their name and remove them from the group there. So I think what we'd want to do is allow group leader to click on group chat from in-game and kick players from the group there. And what that allows us to do is say, when you kick them from the game, they can go back to the spectate tab and that's fine. Say default player to spectating, because if they join as a spectator and they're disrupting things, now you can just click on their name and also kick them from the group, and that's fine. So if the player is well, they have to be spectating for this to happen. So also remove the player. Well, question: do we also remove the player from the game they are spectating? And I'm asking this because if you think back to the TPM days, back a couple of years ago, if you were in a TagPro matchmaking group and you were watching a game but not playing in it, and you chatted, the group's bot would kick you from the group, but it would keep you in the game. So you could continue to watch the game, but you could no longer type in the group chat. So we have that option where the player is disruptive, they get removed, they can continue watching, but at the end of the game, they go back to the home page. Or we could say they're kicked from the group. We also want to kick them from spectating. We do not want this player in the game. I think I lean toward the second one, just because the group leader is making a decision to kick them. They probably don't want them in the group at all. Because what's the use case for somebody wanting them to not be able to chat, but also not be allowed in the group after this game ends? It's very specific. I think it's more likely that the group leader does not want that player in the game at all, or in the group at all. So we should remove them entirely. And I think if we do that in combination with the removal of bans from somebody from the group, now the group leader can kick them and say, oh, actually, I did want them to be able to stay in the group afterward. And they can go back and they can unban that player and they can rejoin the group. I think that covers enough of the cases we'd be going for, that I'm happy enough with that for now. So what'd you say, Toppy, here? You can remove self-assignment so they don't come back, but I agree, typically only the last two are going to be used. Yeah, so I think we're good on that front. So I'm going to say also remove the player from the game they are spectating, and send them to the home page. And instead of kick, I'm going to say ban players from the group, because that's a specific thing. Kick from group, so ban from group, and kick from game, or just kick from game. So if they're kicked from the game, they're still in the group, they're just not playing anymore. And I think that, because the other concern is if somebody's kicked from the game and auto assign is enabled, we don't want them going back to click play now again. So we have to make sure that we're storing in the game somehow that that player is not allowed in anymore. So we would have to just disable the button, but also remove the auth from that player so that if they get a direct link to the game, they are still rejected back to the group. That's more of a back end thing, but it would be important if we get there. So that is good enough for me for that. What else are we missing here? So just let's back up a little bit. We've got anonymous players joining and messing with the group. We're giving the group leader the ability to only allow logged in players, only allow reserve names. If we're only allowing reserve names, we're allowing players to be notified if their display name was expected to show up, so that they know it's actually going to be their reserve name. If they're in the group when that happens, they get kicked, unless they say, I'm okay with staying and having my reserve name shown. In the future, when we have a friends feature, we can make a friends only group thing. And then with the banning system, if we ban somebody from a group, we're offering the group leader the ability to undo that ban and to see all past bans and remove those if they so choose. And then when you're in a game, the group leader will now have the ability to kick a player from the game that they're in, kick a player from the game and also remove them from the group that they are in, and /or kick a player from the group who is not in the game but is spectating and is chatting. That seems pretty good to me. Anybody have thoughts on that? Not getting anything. Just trying to think of any other things we'd want to do with this. Group leader, self moderation tools. Yeah, let's say group moderation tools. Moderation tools for group leaders. There we go. I'm ordering Uber Eats. I zoned out. Can you repeat it? No, Toppy, I'm sorry. I cannot do that. It is in front of you now, though, if you want to take a look later. So, I'm pretty happy with where that's leaving off. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything in my notes here about what else I wanted to work on. Nope, I think that covers it. So that puts us at, oh, we're over 90 minutes. I didn't even realize that. Yelp says, interesting. I'm not a no on it. Good to hear that, Yelpa. Yeah, all right. I think we're good here. I didn't realize we went past 90 minutes. So that's a good sign, but I'm enjoying the stream. But I think just to wrap things up, we covered all the dev updates for the rough timeline on Season 1. Just to reiterate, we are looking at, over the weekend, getting Season 1 started up now that we've seen the calculations working as expected for ranked. We do want to do a brief trial of neutral flag before that happens. If you are at a certain tier, you will have to get back to that tier, but it shouldn't be as difficult as you might fear. It should be pretty straightforward because we're actually fixing a lot of the stringing out of players that happened before this most recent release. So it should actually be easier to get back there if that's where you belong in Season 1. And you're not missing out on any flares. If you didn't get anything, you will have the ability to earn all of them again in Season 1, except for the Season 0 flare, which you are currently eligible for if you have played at least one ranked game, which I think most of us have done at this point. So no need to fear, you're not missing anything. Other timeline things, we are starting work on the in-game shop in the next couple of days. Toppy, if you go to your profile, you'll see a little match. Actually, I can show you. The Season 0 flare is a match. Thanking everybody for helping us test ranked matchmaking. They stuck around for a full ranked match in Season 0. So you get a lit match. Anybody who played a single game in Season 0 will earn that flare. Nope, you don't have it yet. You'll get it when the season ends. So, starting progress in the in-game shop in the next few days. We have the design documents already written up for it. We just need to get breaking ground on that. Then after that, as I've talked about before, the Steam release is our next priority. So I'm actually going to be meeting up with Yelpa. He doesn't know this yet. And hopefully in the next week or so to get started on our Steam page. And then for a timeline, it's hard to say exactly when. We're looking at sometime in the first few months of next year for that. So I'll definitely give more updates as we get closer to that. Obviously, it's hard to say when it will happen before we've actually gotten all these things together, but we are well on our way to getting this game in a better spot. So if you have any questions about anything roadmap wise, feel free to reach out to me and I'm happy to talk through some more details. Next stream is probably going to be a little bit of roadmap discussion unless something better comes up. So if you have any thoughts about what we should be prioritizing, feel free to let me know. And if you're looking for inspiration, you can always go through the feedback tab, look through all the stuff that we have that is planned. There are quite a few things that we want to do. It's really just a matter of figuring out what the order to do them should be. So, holy moly. Yeah, we got a lot of things we want to do. a lot of things. So, yeah, that's all I got for you guys for this week. Hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving. I forgot to say that at the start of the stream for those of us in the U.S. Otherwise, have a nice rest of your Friday. Have a good weekend. And I will see you all soon.